Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times.
Hillary Clinton was tripping all over herself yesterday. I mean, not just verbally, like actually physically. Clip 14 yesterday, she was actually coming down the stairs. She was in India, and she slipped not once, but twice coming down the stairs. She obviously, I mean, she is less stable on her feet than my grandmother. My grandmother has 20 years on her. Here's Hillary Clinton dressed in a muumuu coming down the stairs in India. What is she wearing? She looks like a hospital patient. Here she comes down the stairs, and up, and down goes Hillary. Down goes Hillary. Howard Cosell impersonation. All right, here she, up, and down goes Hillary again. It's like the Joe Frazier Foreman. Up, and there goes her shoe. Both shoes are gone. Now she's walking barefoot. Now she's going, and she's got two people supporting her. My favorite part of that video, if you run it back, is that I believe it's Huma Abedin behind her, and Huma Abedin does not even react. Right? Huma's like, oh yeah, Hillary does this all the time. Remember when we were told that Hillary was perfectly healthy and all was well? No one, for people who are saying that the stairs were slippery, first of all, Slippery Stairs is a great Japanese show, but has nothing to do with this, but I just felt like making the reference. But second of all, I think that it is worth noting that no one else who is walking down these stairs is slipping except for Hillary, who slips twice and then kicks off her shoes. Yeah, but everybody who asked about her health was totally crazy in the last election cycle. That wasn't the worst slipping down the stairs for Hillary. The worst slipping down the stairs for Hillary came yesterday during an interview on India Today, in which she slandered poor people and people in red states, as well as other women. Now, for those who can't see, Hillary is actually apparently wearing Steve Urkel's pants in this interview. So she's sitting there talking about why she lost and going, did I lose that? So here's Hillary Clinton talking about why people voted for Trump instead of for Her Majesty.
If you look at the map of the United States, there's all that red in the middle where Trump won. I win the coasts, I win, Illinois and Minnesota, places like that. But what the map doesn't show you is that I won the places that represent 2/3 of America's gross domestic product.
Okay, pause it there for a second before we go further. So first of all, that is the stupidest argument ever, right? She's now arguing that basically there should be a per capita GDP rating on whether your votes count. So not on earning, because the fact is that if you're a higher earner, you voted Republican. On average, Trump voters were slightly wealthier than Hillary voters. But she's saying if you're from a high earning area, then we should vote for you. So this is the difference between Trump voters and Hillary voters. There are a lot of rich Trump voters, but they live out in the hinterlands. They live in Texas. They live in Montana. They live out in a bunch of places that are not particularly high earning as a generality. A lot of Hillary voters are people who are not necessarily rich, but they do live in high earning areas like Manhattan or Los Angeles or Seattle, big cities, because Hillary's voting base tends to be more urban. Urban there is not a euphemism for black, by the way. Her voting base tends to be significantly more city-based than Trump's voting base. But that's a crazy concept, what she just said there, right? When she says that my votes are more valuable because they come from areas that earn more. Funny, when Mitt Romney said sort of the same thing in 2012, people shellacked him for it, but the left is sort of letting Hillary go on this one to a certain extent. So that was not the worst thing that Hillary said. So Hillary starts off by saying, listen, the places I won are the more important places, right? I won the places where all the money is. And then people wondered why people thought that she was a tool of like Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. Maybe it's because she's openly saying she's a tool of Goldman Sachs and Wall Street. Then it gets even worse. She starts labeling the people. She says the people who live in high-income areas, these are better people than the people who voted for Trump. People who voted for me are better human beings than people who voted for Trump. Sort of an amazing contention, but here she goes.
So I won the places that are optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward. And his whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You didn't like black people getting rights. You don't like women, getting jobs. You don't want to, see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Whatever your problem is.
So Hillary's voters were just superior humans. Now, this is one of the reasons she lost the election. When you call half the voting American public deplorable, turns out they think that you're kind of a jerk. Hillary was the worst candidate in American history, and she proves it every single day. I just hope that Hillary continues to be on the public stage and Democrats are forced to defend her. I'd love to see Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, be forced to answer questions about Hillary's perspective on the American voter. But that's an amazing contrast she's drawn. And here's why Democrats, if they take this to heart, are going to lose. Because their view is that the people who voted for Hillary Clinton are superior, better humans than the people who voted for Donald Trump. They actually believe that the folks who pulled the trigger for Hillary are more optimistic and diverse and dynamic and moving forward, even though there's no evidence that they're more optimistic, right? Maybe more racially diverse. I mean, her coalition was more racially diverse than Trump's, but so what? And dynamic, moving forward, what does that even mean? That they wanted more socialistic government? She won the places that are more optimistic. But the people from the other side, those terrible, terrible people, they're just garbage. When Democrats say this, when they believe this, what it means is they're going to double down on the good people, right? They're going to double down on the optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward people, which means the intersectional coalition. They're going to keep ignoring the people who voted in Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. They're going to keep just saying that those people are bad people, which is why they voted for Trump. And maybe if you insult them enough, they'll vote for you, Hillary. Maybe if you insult them enough, Democrats, they'll vote for you. Maybe if you tell them that they're beneficiaries of white privilege who are looking backwards, then suddenly they will resonate to your cause. But somehow I doubt it. That last line that Trump's whole pitch, and it worked with these people, was, you don't like black people getting rights? Name anything Trump said during the campaign, or ever, as far as I'm aware, in which he said he wanted black people's rights removed. And don't give me voter ID. That's not a right, okay? Everyone uses voter ID in states all over the country. We use ID to buy alcohol. We use ID for lots of stuff. That's not a racist policy. It says you don't like women getting jobs. When did Trump ever say he didn't like women getting jobs? He said, I don't want this woman getting this job. He doesn't want Hillary Clinton becoming president. But women getting jobs, I mean, Trump's relatively famous for his daughter being a pretty successful businesswoman, right? Ivanka is a very successful businesswoman. He doesn't seem to have a lot of trouble with that. I have a lot of problems with Trump, but these are not the problems. Black people getting rights is a problem for Trump. You don't like women getting jobs. You don't want to see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Who does she think is the United Nations ambassador? The ambassador to the UN from the United States is Nikki Haley, an Indian American. And the two states that have had Indian American governors are North Carolina, Nikki Haley, and Louisiana with Bobby Jindal. Both of them voted for Trump in the last election cycle. I mean, it was Joe Biden, not Donald Trump, who was making jokes about Apu-style Indian people at 7-Eleven. And this is all nonsense. And it's very helpful for Democrats because, again, they want to portray themselves as the better people than the rest of us. Over at 538, actually it was Vox.com, they had a whole article about how Trump voters are more racist than Hillary voters, ignoring, of course, the fact that a lot of Hillary voters are racist in reversed fashion, that when you spend an entire campaign talking about white privilege and how America is terrible and how white people have victimized black people all across America and continue to do so, when you do that, that tends to veer into racism very, very quickly. And it tends to veer into a sneering, snide, nasty, looking down your nose at all of these Americans, this sort of paternalistic view of these stupid people who live in the middle of the country. This is why Hillary Clinton lost. And then she continued along these lines. So she's looking for everyone to blame. She's now blamed pretty much everyone on earth except for herself for her election loss. She said that she blames women because married women voted for Trump. But why did married women vote for Trump? Well, they voted for Trump, of course, because they're little Tammy Wynette types, right, who stand by their man. The reason that married women voted for Trump is because married women voted like their husbands, and their husbands basically, the old Bob comes down from his job at the beer factory, and comes in and gets his whooping stick. And he says to his wife, honey, you better get out there and vote Trump. I'm going to hit you with the whooping stick. And this is Hillary's actual vision of how married women in the United States vote. Here's Hillary Clinton explaining.
What happened in my election is I'm going to solve it. So one reason I wrote what happened was to sound the alarm about the forces at work in the 2016 election in the United States because they are still with us. In America, it was a perfect storm, deep currents of anger and resentment flowing through our culture, a political press that told voters my emails were the most important story, the unprecedented intervention by the FBI on me.
Okay, that is not true in the slightest. Hillary Clinton, with regard to married women, won almost precisely the same percentage of the vote as Barack Obama or John McCain. Married women always vote Republican. Donald Trump won 53% of I believe it was 53% of white married women in the United States. Mitt Romney won 52% and John McCain won 51%. So they won exactly the same percentage, meaning that it has very little to do with Hillary Clinton. Hillary is providing a rather flattering account of her own election. But there's some more here that I want to discuss, something about married versus unmarried that I think is going under the radar, a piece of data I think you should know. Alrighty, so you heard Hillary blaming all of these married women who apparently listen to old Bob with the hickory stick when he comes home from work and says, get you out and go vote for Trump. Right? That's how Hillary pictures all these people in the backwoods of Kentucky, right? That's America breaks down into two groups of people. It breaks down into the Clintons and the Obamas, And then it breaks down into old Bob with the hickory stick out in the middle of Louisiana, right? That's Hillary's view of America. It's very much the New Yorker view of America. There's a very famous cover of the New Yorker that shows what America looks like from the perspective of a New Yorker. And Hillary is basically a New Yorker. Whether she grew up in Chicago is irrelevant. She's got the attitude of a lot of folks from New York. And that attitude is that America looks something like this. They chose a map of the United States from the New Yorker's perspective. And so what the map shows is here's New York with a lot of big buildings. And then it shows like nothing for about 3 inches. And then there's LA. And up here is Chicago. And down here is Dallas. And that's it, right? The rest of the country just doesn't exist. The entirety of the country is New York. And then the other coast, right? There's nothing between the coasts. And that's how Hillary views America. If you are anywhere in the middle of the country, if you're in flyover country, then this means that you are a bad person, you are an irresponsible person, or you're a woman who's being bullied by her husband. Now,